There, that's the right button. Okay, hi there. I'm here today with Kim Pierpoint, who is a retired healthcare administrator, an avid triathlete, and the founder of Prickly Pear Sports. And I think it's always nice to hear, someone's story from the person themselves. So, can you tell me how you got interested in Prickly Pear Sports and what you do?
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Um, this was really years in the making. When I was in my 50s and had a healthcare administration position, I started doing sprint triathlons mostly as a fundraiser for the organization that I work for.
Can I ask you a
And
question?
you bet.
What's a sprint triathlon? I mean, I know what a
Uh,
triathlon is, but I don't know what a sprint triathlon is.
a sprint is a very short distance. When you think of triathlon, you often think of Ironman
Yeah.
or something like that. Sprint they call it a sprint because you can really go flat out rather than pace yourself like you would if it were an endurance event. I pace myself anyway,
Okay.
but it's like a 800-meter swim and maybe a 15-18 mile bike followed by a 5K.
Oh,
So
so
those are the distances, and a lot of people use them as training events for longer distances.
okay.
I tried one longer distance, which was an Olympic level, and that's twice the sprint distance. I did that once and said, nah, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. I
So
gotcha.
yeah, yeah. Um, I My daughter actually wrote me into doing one many years ago, and because I was very athletic as a kid, I thought, this shouldn't be too hard. And it was very humbling because I could hardly even get through the run at the end. And I thought, okay, I can either say I'm done with this or I can try it again. So I tried it again the next year and then the year after that. And I just kept going because training helped me feel good about my level of physical conditioning again after years of raising kids, working full time, wife, motherhood, all those things.
Yeah.
And it felt like I could finally get back to figuring out what my body was capable of doing again. So I started training. My kids, they were pretty funny. They said, Mom, stop downloading free training programs off the internet. You're going to hurt yourself. And they ended up hiring a coach for me for a month to try it out. And now I've been working with her for years. I'm happy to say I'm injury free. But the more I started training, which was included running track, the worse my bladder leaks got. I got to the point where I couldn't make it around the track without soaking my shorts. And it
Yeah.
was embarrassing. I would have to go home. And I thought, okay, I can either stop or I can figure out what to do. So I started researching. And it was interesting to me that when I put in search terms, nothing much came up except disposables, go to wear Depends. I actually had somebody say, why did you run in Depends? I thought, well, that's a non-starter. So I tried everything. I bought incontinence underwear, washable underwear. I bought disposable products. Everything I could find. I didn't like anything. I never felt comfortable running with any of these products. They were too bulky. The padding was totally in the wrong place, which I think is actually funny. People don't know where you actually pee, right?
Yeah.
Um, and uh, so I started complaining more and more about it. And finally, my kids said, Mom, either stop complaining or, just go do something about it. Would you? You've been talking about making your own product for years. So I thought, you think I could? I went to the local fabric store. I used to sew when I was in high school, and that was like a long time ago. And I thought, I have an old Singer machine. I'll just whip up a prototype. And I asked a friend for advice, somebody who has a modern sewing machine. And she said, Kim, you can't do this yourself. The type of flat seams, you need a serger. You're going to spend thousands of dollars. years of time to learn how to use it. Go find somebody to sew them up for you. So I did. I started working. I found somebody on Craigslist, somebody who had outdoor industry sewing experience. And we put together some prototypes. I roped in a dozen of my colleagues and friends to try them out. So I was about maybe 6 months into product development, and I ended up going to a trade show. And there I met an industry expert who gives all kinds of advice to entrepreneurs who are trying to start up a fashion line. And she gave me some advice. We spent some time together. I went home, I kept trying. And after another couple of months, I said, okay, I need professional help. So I flew out to LA. I met with her. I showed her my prototypes, and she very gently said, Kim, these are kind of horrible. And I thought, okay, then. But she introduced me to a manufacturer in LA in the fabric garment fashion district who works with small startups. And Carlo Galami is his name. He has design expertise. He looked at my stuff. I brought a bunch of other examples that I wanted to incorporate. And long story short, within a month, he had a brand new prototype in both shorts and leggings. I sent them to my prototype testers, and they all said, oh my God, these things are brilliant. So I thought, okay, then, this is not my area of expertise. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I got connected with people who do. So that was really the beginning of, not only do I think I'm able to do this, but I got people around me who will make sure that I do.
Yeah.
So I did another year in product development. I had people try them. I said, put these on, go drink a bunch, go out and run and tell me how they work. And, I came back with all kinds of feedback. And I did, Survey Monkey, and I tried to be scientific about this. And I expected the feedback to be, I need more absorbency, I need more moisture wicking, I need, this and that.
Yeah.
And oddly, the most common bit of feedback I had was, I want invisible panty lines.
Yeah.
So we have what we call minimally visible panty lines, because my shorts and my leggings are made with an integrated mesh brief, just like you see in most running shorts. You go to the running store, you buy a pair of shorts, it comes with a mesh brief, and then you can wear them without underwear. You can go commando. You don't have to layer up with underwear, pads, the mesh brief, and that kind of thing, because then by the time you're out the door, you're already uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we have a very thin, breathable mesh brief. And then we have the integrated gusset, which has the moisture wicking and the absorbent properties that make this so good.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
You betcha.
Will you tell everyone what a gusset is?
Sure, I've been warned to do that. Okay, you have a pair of underwear. It's the panel that goes against your crotch.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, the crotch part of the underwear is also known as a gusset. And that's what they call it in the clothing industry. So the panel has 5 layers. They're very thin. You think 5 layers, you're going to be bulky, but it's a very thin pad with some highly kind of technical absorbent moisture wicking fabric in it.
So I always think it's amazing when someone has a problem, right? And they don't like what's
Yep.
on the market, and then they
Yep.
create something new,
Yep.
right? Because I think most of us do what your kids didn't want you to do, which is sit around and talk about it and complain and don't
Yep.
actually do something. But the amount of work and energy it takes to create something like this is intense, right? I mean, it is a
It is.
huge endeavor.
Yep.
So I just want to recap. So you had stress incontinence, right? So you had leaking with exercise, right? So
Yep.
every step you would leak a little bit.
Yep.
And tell me what you didn't like about the products that were on the market, and how your product is better.
Okay. I tried a very popular brand of incontinence underwear.
Uh-huh.
It has a sister company that does period underwear for young women. And I thought, okay, if this works, then I don't need to get started. So I wore it, I ran with it, and the problem I had with it is that the gusset itself, that panel, felt too wide and a little stiff and bulky for me for long distance running. And for me, long distance is 3 to 5 miles. I'm not
Hmm.
a marathoner, but I didn't like the feel of it. I wanted a narrower profile where the inside of my thighs were. And the absorbency was okay, but it didn't. I would leak kind of around the edges, so I didn't like that. And then I tried several other similar products on the market that weren't as good a quality as these, but I thought I would try them anyway.
Hmm.
And then I tried other like leggings that have pretty hilarious, a little terry cloth patch right in the center of the crotch, which misses everything.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I can do better than that. So what I did in the product development stage, I actually took a lot of these products apart and tried to analyze what they had, the composition of the fabric and whether I could do a better job. So I would put my product and theirs side by side, look at the feel, the softness, the thickness, the stiffness, and then I would pour water gradually over each one because I thought I at least have to have a similar level of absorbency
Yeah.
in my product. Otherwise, I wouldn't be very competitive. So I carefully did that. And then I came up with a profile that was a little narrower, a little more geared toward, I thought, minor to moderate stress incontinence with the thicker part of the pad in the front and then a narrow tail going kind of through the legs toward the back that would wick everything away. And then actually, I found a fabric company. It took a long time. I don't know. This is not my industry.
Yeah.
So I had to do a lot of research and investigation. And I found a marvelous company called Wazoodle Fabrics, believe it
I
or not,
love the name.
family owned, very accessible. The owner, she's a chemist. She's a PhD chemist, and she and her family have put this fabric company together. They make a lot of products for the medical diaper, PPE, and incontinence market. And they knew what I was looking for. So I
Hmm.
consulted with them and they helped me pick the right fabrics for the kind of use and end result that I wanted.
Yeah. I don't think most people realize, the science behind the
Yeah,
materials that we use, right? I
right.
mean, and there's a huge industry and a lot of research that goes on to make sure that you have the right material. So I think getting the right materials, so there's the right absorbency, but then also paying attention to what's comfortable,
Yeah,
because there's an awful lot of friction that happens with running, and if something
yep,
is doesn't fit you right or is too tight, too uncomfortable, not stretchy enough. I mean, it can do a lot of skin damage, right? And there's
yes,
only so much body glide in the world.
you got it. And I'm one of those women. By the way, my own physician is one of my product testers.
Oh, nice.
And, and she knows that I need to wear cotton underwear. I tend to get vaginal and UTI infections fairly often. So for me, um, I had to have it friendly enough to my own body to be able to tell other women, you can wear this and be reassured that I've done everything in my power to make this body friendly.
Yeah.
So it is not perfect. I get often asked, can I wear these all day? And my response is, you can, but why would you? I really think if you're, first of all, if you're exercising in them, go home, take a shower, put on fresh cotton underwear, and, rinse these out in the sink.
Yeah.
So even though I'm very proud of the outcome that we have, I wouldn't recommend that women wear these all day.
Yeah. There are
For
definitely limitations, right?
yeah, there
Um,
are.
But I think the important thing is providing products, options, tools so that you can
Yeah,
go out and do the activity that you want in the way that you want to, right? And
yeah,
and I think nobody likes to leak, but I think even more nobody wants anyone else to know that they're leaking, right? So
Yes,
you don't want to have anything bulky, you don't want to have big panty lines. I mean, all of those things are really important to most women. So tell me what the positive feedback that you get about your product is, and then my next question is going to be, what's the negative feedback?
sure, absolutely. The leggings in particular fit beautifully. People love the fabric of the leggings, and so I'm talking about it's like a poly spandex blend. It has a very soft feel, a very nice style. So you look good while you're out there. And we did a really good job with minimizing the panty lines. They're not completely invisible, but their profile is really low. The absorbency for women who are minor to moderate leakers really works. People tell me, oh my gosh, I went out and ran. I leaked, but it didn't show through. I wasn't embarrassed. I could keep going. The running shorts are really cute, I'm told. Not a huge, I'm a very functionally oriented person. But when I designed the running shorts, I had a lot of feedback that, you can go out there. There's so many out there. Make them so people want to wear them.
Hmm.
So you look nice when you're out doing it. And the feedback about the functionality of it has been really good. There are, out of my dozen prototype testers, there are two, myself included, who leak more sometimes than the product can hold. So if we're segueing into the negative, they don't hold heavy leaks.
Yeah.
And if you're out for a long time and you continue to leak throughout your run, you might leak through. So I have another customer who actually um, asked me for a referral to a urogynecologist because she was still struggling. And I will tell you, and you might get to this later, or I will certainly get to it later, is my message has kind of shifted from, yeah, you leak, so many of us do, wear my stuff, go out there and do it anyway, to, yeah, we leak, and there's something that you can do about it. Go see a pelvic floor PT.
Yeah.
Go see a urogynecologist. Before I started this, Sarah, I didn't know that there was such a discipline as
Hmm.
pelvic floor PT. I've been leaking for decades. My kids are in their 30s, right?
Yeah.
So I found a pelvic floor PT after this social media connection, near me. I became a pelvic floor PT patient. I don't leak anymore much. I still do a little bit, but my message now is you can do something about this. Go see a therapist, but look great while you're at it.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I mean, we
Yeah,
don't do a very good job of sharing this information. A lot of women leak. Pelvic floor PT is always the first thing that we recommend. Some women don't live near a pelvic floor PT. Some women aren't
right.
comfortable with it. There are a lot of reasons, but I just think it's so important that you understand what is out there and then pick something that works for you.
Yes,
My dream world, everyone would see PT, everyone would see a Eurogyne, you would be assessed, you would know everything. But the reality is sometimes, I mean, let's say you just had a child and you are just getting through the day, then maybe at that time your product is the perfect answer, right? Until you have capacity to deal with with something else. So I think just having those options and then knowing what your next step might be
right.
when you're ready.
I think that's great advice. Um, I have a 8, almost 9-month old granddaughter. So my own daughter is dealing with postpartum issues.
Yeah.
And, it's been a while since I went through that, and there weren't near the resources then that there are now. But what I'm hearing from pregnant and postpartum women in general is, and the PTs who work with them, is this is not a race to
Oh
get
no.
your pre-pregnancy body back. And we should reframe it and not think of it that way. I've actually paired up with a local pelvic floor PT to go out and talk to mom and baby groups.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful national organization called Fit for Mom.
Hmm.
And it's, you can go, you can bring your baby, you can have your stroller, and do stroller based exercises.
Right.
And it's a community thing with other moms. But what I'm hearing is give us time, let us heal. And yeah, exactly what you were saying.
It's such an interesting time that you know, the medical community may not support moms enough, right? And I hesitate to throw anybody under the bus, but there are a lot of resources that new moms need that
Mhm.
we just don't think about all the time. So, in other countries, women are routinely sent to pelvic floor PT after they deliver. In the US, the current recommendation is that if you have a third or fourth degree laceration, so a big tear, that you go see a pelvic floor PT, or if you're having problems. But even then, it doesn't always, get done. And, we infer that you should be totally healed by 6 weeks after you deliver. And that is just not true. It takes
Yeah,
much longer. I mean, if you have a tear, the visible tear will be healed, but your body's still remodeling. There's so much that is still happening and healing. And most people don't realize that. Plus it's your whole life has changed and you're figuring things
yeah,
out. There are hormonal changes that
yeah,
impact the pelvic floor. There's just so much going on. And it's just a delicate time. I had very normal, easy deliveries. And I frequently think about how hard it was and how much harder it is if you have anything that deviates from a totally normal delivery, right?
yeah.
If your child is colicky, if you had a big tear, if you're constipated, I mean, it it is a difficult time.
It really is.
So, but yeah, I'm glad you're doing that. I think, the more people get out there and talk about these things, the better it is. And I think when someone is willing to share their life experience, right? And to say, hey, I leaked for all of this time. It bothered me enough that I developed a product. Oh, and then I saw PT and now it's mostly
Yeah,
better. I mean, that's an amazing story, right? And
yeah.
that's just an amazing thing to share with people. So, I have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your leggings work? Until a certain mileage? I mean, I know it depends on how much you're leaking, but would you say, yeah, this works if you run less than 10 miles, and if you're running more than that, they probably won't work as well?
I think they work for any mileage. It depends if you're out doing a half marathon. They may, and you're leaking a lot. They may not fully absorb
Yeah.
everything, at mile 10. But if you're still, minor to moderate leaking, it'll hold up. The ones that I'm wearing, uh, I made 2 years ago. And I don't run because I do multi-sport. I don't I don't run a ton every week. I, swim, bike, and run. But I hike a lot, I walk a lot, I wear them just about everywhere I go. And they hold up well just from a quality standpoint.
Yeah.
You can throw them in the wash. What I do if I don't leak a whole lot, I just rinse out the panty part in the sink and either hang it to dry or toss it in the next time I do laundry. You can wash them with everything else. I use a pretty delicate cycle. I don't use fabric softeners. That tends to not be great for fabrics over time. But I'm 2 years into this and they're fine. And I have customers who've had theirs for 2 years
Yeah.
and I reach out to them now and then and they're still going strong.
So do you recommend, so you just wash them in the wash machine, but do you recommend
Yep.
no dryer? Do you have to air dry them?
You can dry them. You can
Oh,
throw
you
them in
can.
delicate low heat. Yep. Yep.
Oh, I totally thought you were going to say you couldn't dry them, that it would
No, you
destroy
can.
the absorbency.
It doesn't. Um, what the fabric company says about the absorbency is they they've engineered the fabric. It's cotton based, either cotton or bamboo, but it also has technical fabric um, within it. And it's the technical fabric, not extra coating, that does the moisture wicking and the absorbing. So they say as long as the fabric holds out, your absorption, your moisture wicking and your absorption will hold out.
That's great.
So yeah, it's so far so good. I imagine at some point they will run out, and I'm not. Yeah, one of the issues that comes up a lot, or one of the questions I get asked, is about sustainability
Yeah.
and why are my products better environmentally than disposable pads? And the obvious answer, answer that seems obvious to that, is of course, it's not so easy. Um, so pads are plastic based, most of them, and they take upwards of 400 years to decompose in landfills. Fabric isn't that. Maybe it takes a couple hundred years to decompose. That's still a lot of time, and that's still a lot. We tend to buy stuff and throw it away. So we wear it once or twice. We're done with the season. We'll buy new stuff next season. So I encourage people to hang on to these, wear them as long as you can. When they wear out, send them back to me. If you don't have a textile recycling program in your area, send them back to me. I live in Boulder, Colorado. We recycle a lot here,
Yeah.
including textiles, and we'll try to take care of that way. But in terms of durability, it's like, yes, they are better than a lot of options out there, but you have to take care of them.
What about PFAS chemicals or forever chemicals? Because that's a
Yeah,
question that I get asked a lot.
that is an excellent question, and I've been asking myself that because of the lawsuit that got settled
Hmm.
with Thinx underwear. And my understanding, and maybe you know more about this than I do, but it wasn't based on a potential for physical harm, but more of marketing, messaging.
Yeah, that's my
Um,
understanding as
yeah,
well. I mean, in the United States, they're not felt to be, there isn't a clear link,
yeah,
although there is some hypothesis that,
yes.
they could cause some problems, but that they shouldn't be absorbed in that area. But it was more about marketing.
So the Wazoo makes very public legal statements about the absence of PFAS and other forever chemicals
Yeah.
in their product. So the parts that are next to the body, I can say without hesitation, are free of those chemicals. What I cannot say is the same thing about the moisture barrier that I use. I source that from a different company. I have gone back to that company to ask for a chemical composition because I know that this is very important to people. And I wasn't thrilled with the response. So I am actually going to go back to Wazoodle and see if they've got a comparable moisture barrier fabric to
Hmm.
use going forward. They didn't say yes and they didn't say no. But to me, that wasn't particularly transparent. And it's important to me to be transparent with the people who are going to buy my products. So
Yeah.
I am, upfront and saying, I don't know. I have to. I've done what I can to, shy of sending in a sample for a chemical analysis. What I've decided to do is just switch from that altogether going forward. So I know there's traceability in my fabric.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that makes sense to me. And then,
yeah,
with that transparency, women can make their own choices, right? Like
right,
that's enough for me or it's not.
right.
And it's hard when you're dealing with multiple companies, right? And you get different answers. I mean,
Yep,
we don't have a standardized way of kind of testing this and presenting all
right,
the data to the owner of the company.
right.
So one of the other questions that I get asked a lot is about odor.
Uh,
And so do you find that the garments retain an odor after time? Does that happen?
I have not found that, and none of my customers have complained about that either. There is some um, integrated property of the fabrics that I use for Mazoodle that are, oh, there's a antimicrobial treatment called Silvador. And what they say is that it is really good at keeping, fungus and odors and microbes from happening.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also been tested thoroughly on cotton and bamboo and other products. And because I trust this company, I trust that what they're saying is good,
Yeah.
is reliable, and then they say it'll last as long as the fabrics
Okay.
last.
Yeah, I think you would get that feedback too, right? If women
Yeah,
felt like they noticed an odor while they were running or,
right.
felt like the garment was retaining an odor. I think that's another thing that we're all quite self-conscious about.
You bet. Yeah, we sweat. It's sweat, it's pee,
Yep.
it's blood, it's everything else. And is it going to be apparent to me while I'm wearing it, or to other
Yeah.
people around me at the gym or at the yoga class or CrossFit or whatever? Yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah.
And so far, so good.
That sounds great. Well, I really want to thank you. I love your story. I think you're just such an amazing innovator and, good at turning lemons into lemonade. And I commend you for
Thank you.
sharing your story so honestly. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck. And
All right.
oh, I know I have one more important question for you, which is where can women find your product?
I am strictly online. So all of my products are sitting here in my world headquarters of Prickly Pear Sports, in my house. Um, I have my manufacturers in LA, so if I need to produce another run of something, he will do that for me, and I'll have inventory. But right now, no storefront, and part of that is I don't want to deal with a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, women, when I have talked to other like running stores about giving me shelf space. It's interesting, Sarah. They have said, we love your product. We love what you're out there doing, but we don't have space for an incontinence product. We think it'll be off putting to people. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So
I
it is what
mean,
it is.
it's
And
it's all in how you frame it, right?
yeah,
Because
it is.
it's a reality and it's a common
Yeah.
reality for so many women. And I think it is, yeah, it wouldn't be off-putting, but I think that is a very
Think of
common
marketing
opinion,
opportunity. Think of all the women they could reach who might
right?
not be shopping because they're staying at home rather than running,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I'm strictly online at pricklypearsports.com.
Okay. And I'll include that in the show notes. And then return policy. What if I buy your leggings and they don't fit me? Can I return them?
You tell me, you return them, and we either give you a full refund or we replace them for the right size, no questions asked.
That's a pretty great return policy. Okay.
Well, I can probably be a little bit, um, more strict about that as time goes on, but right now I want it to work.
Yeah.
And return policies, people ask me about free shipping and returns. And so far, I've had few returns. There
Yeah.
are a couple where one of the seams split and it was a manufacturing flaw. I said, send it back to me. I'll send you a replacement. And this is why I love my manufacturer. I sent it back to him and he said, oh, my fault. I'll make you a new one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think right now the best policy is to say we want you to be 100% happy.
Yeah. Well, you clearly take a lot of pride in your product, right? And want
I do.
everyone to have the best experience with it, right? And
You
I think
bet.
that that comes through and, I think it, then fosters a lot of brand loyalty, right?
Yes, that's the
So
plan.
I know. All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.